The hospital hallway was silent, except for the rhythmic beeping of a monitor that everyone feared might stop at any moment. Inside room 217, General Marcus Hale, a man who had commanded soldiers on 3 continents, stood helplessly beside his daughter's hospital bed. 30 specialists, he muttered bitterly. 30 brilliant minds, and not one can tell me why my little girl can't wake up. Lying motionless on the bed was Emily, his 12-year-old daughter. She had collapsed 3 months earlier after what doctors called a neurological shutdown. They ran every test, scanned every image, and prescribed every medication known to modern science. Nothing worked. Marcus Hale, the man who once stared down tanks, was now broken by the one battle he couldn't win. The next morning, a new name appeared on the hospital rotation list. Dr. Thomas Reed, volunteer consultant. But Thomas wasn't a doctor. Not anymore. He had been a pediatric specialist until tragedy took his wife and son in a car accident 2 years ago. Since then, he'd given up his practice, working quietly as a janitor at a small clinic. Healing others was too painful when he couldn't heal his own heart. Yet fate has a way of calling us back when we least expect it. When the hospital administrator saw his resume, former chief of pediatric neurology, she practically begged him to take a look at Emily's case. Thomas walked into the room silently, his footsteps soft against the polished floor. He didn't wear the white coat the others did. He wore a simple sweater and jeans, and carried a notebook that looked worn from years of notes and tears. The general eyed him skeptically. "You're not dressed like a doctor." Thomas smiled faintly. "No, sir. I'm not here to look like one. I'm here to see your daughter." For the next hour, Thomas sat beside Emily's bed, listening, observing, and softly talking to her as if she could hear him. He noticed small things: the twitch of her fingers when sunlight hit her face, the subtle change in her breathing when her favorite song played on the radio. He asked the nurse for her old home videos, her drawings, and school photos. "Why do you need those?" the general asked, confused. Thomas replied gently, "Because sometimes healing isn't in the charts, it's in the child." Later that night, Thomas reviewed Emily's scans one more time. But instead of focusing on her brain, he studied her responses. Something about the way her heart rate shifted at specific sounds, something no one had noticed. He returned the next morning with a strange request. "I want to try something different," he said. "Not medicine. Music." The doctor scoffed, but the general, too desperate to refuse, nodded. Thomas placed an old cassette player by the bed. He inserted a tape labeled Emily, 6th birthday. The sound of her young laughter filled the room, followed by her mother's voice singing, "You are my sunshine." As the familiar melody played, a tear rolled down Emily's still face. Monitors beeped faster. Thomas whispered, "That's it, come back to us, sweetheart." He adjusted a small tactile stimulator near her wrist, a device that gently vibrated with each musical note. He had designed it years ago for his own son's therapy. Suddenly, Emily's lips trembled. Then, her fingers moved. The nurse gasped. She's responding." The general grabbed her hand, tears streaming down his cheeks. "Emily? It's Dad. I'm here, baby. I'm right here." Her eyelids fluttered open, and for the first time in months she whispered, "Daddy?" The room erupted in cries of relief and disbelief. Later, the hospital board gathered around Thomas, demanding to know what he had done. He explained calmly. "She wasn't in a coma caused by brain damage. Her mind had shut down from emotional trauma after her mother's death. Her body wasn't sick, her heart was. All she needed was a reason to feel safe enough to return." He smiled softly, looking at Emily. "Sometimes medicine can't reach the soul. But love can." The general approached Thomas that evening in the courtyard, still overwhelmed. "I don't know how to thank you," he said. 30 doctors, and you're the only one who saw what we missed." Thomas looked out at the sunset. "You don't need to thank me, General. Just go home and hold your daughter. That's the only medicine she needs now." He turned to leave, but the general stopped him. "Dr. Reed, Why did you come here? Why this case? Thomas hesitated, then smiled sadly. Because I lost my own little boy once. I couldn't save him, but maybe helping her was his way of saving me. A few weeks later, Emily was walking again. She even wrote a letter to Thomas. Dear Dr. Reed, Daddy says you fixed me? But I think you just reminded my heart it still knows how to love. Emily. Months passed, and Thomas quietly left the city, never asking for recognition or reward. But every year on her birthday, Emily would receive a small package, inside, a cassette tape with a simple note. Keep singing, sunshine. The world still needs your song. And as the camera fades on that final image, Emily humming softly while her father watches with tears in his eyes, the narrator's voice would close. Sometimes the greatest healers are the ones who have been broken themselves, because only they know how to see the pain that others overlook.